Hello everyone, it's Simmuz here, and yes, I am back, and I am alive. I am back, and yes, I am going to talk about something very important in this video, but I wanted to give you a little life update. As you might have realized, this bedroom is not the same bedroom where I used to be in, because I moved, and that's exactly the reason why you haven't seen many videos in this last few months, and I'm very sorry. Hopefully I can pick them back up now that I'm starting to get a little settled in. And before moving into the video and the topic, which is very important and I really wanted to talk about, don't forget to subscribe down below and leave a like as well to the video, because it really helps me out and it makes this video go to more people. And I do believe this topic is very important and a lot of people have to see it, so hopefully that's going to happen. So if you have played The Sims 4, at this point, The Sims 4, 10-year-old game, the main franchise of simulation games, The Sims, mainline game, main game right now for Sims is The Sims 4. It's free to play, so you might have played it and you've realized that there's a lot of good representation in this game. We have a way to customize skin tones, we have body sliders to make bigger or slimmer Sims, we have sex and sexual orientation markers that you can pick for, we have cultural food, we have cultural dresses, we could have more obviously, and I always will say that, but you know, there's a lot of great representation in The Sims. And I do believe that Max's and EA do kind of use that as like a good thing for The Sims to push it in marketing, saying, oh, it's such a good representation, there's a lot of inclusivity in this game, maybe you should play it too because it's very inclusive and you can represent yourself. And I do completely agree with that. Like, I cannot really think of a video game that is more customizable than Sims. And that is even without taking into consideration all the packs and expansion packs and all the mods that you can find online. There's so much for everybody. But I do have a big issue that I want to talk about. So The Sims 4 has been out for 10 years. At this point, we have so many words that I cannot even name them all, and all of these words are based on mostly real-life locations. If we take, for example, the base game words, we have Willow Creek, which is based on Louisiana and New Orleans, that kind of area, and you can tell that not just from the nature and the look of it, but also from the architecture of the buildings in the game. They are supposedly inspired by the Louisiana kind of New Orleans area specifically. And if we take into consideration Hazy Spring, that is a desert word that is clearly inspired by Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado kind of area. That kind of suburban, deserty, but also green area with a little bit of a upper class vibe. And throughout the years we got a lot of different words inspired by a lot of different areas of the world. And I'm talking specifically about The Sims 4, but we already had words in The Sims 3, and here we can say the same thing. Same goes for Sims 2, even though we did have neighborhoods, not words exactly, but some of them were clearly inspired by real life places. We had Paris, we had Verona, and I'm thinking of Sims 3, we had the Egypt word, we had Paris, I think, we had like an islandy Polynesian word. And specifically in The Sims 4, which is the mainline game right now, and also the game with the most words, we have a word inspired by Southeast Asia, we have a word inspired by Japan, we have many words inspired by Europe, we have Tortosa, this is inspired by the Mediterranean area, Italy, southern Italy, France, Greece, we have Hanford and Beckley that is inspired by the UK countryside, Windenburg is inspired by Germany and that kind of area. So there's a lot of European representation and there's a lot of North America representation. So I'm gonna go through the list of Sims words here, and we will talk about each one like very briefly, just so that we can see where on the map of the word they do land in. So we obviously have Batu. This is an alien word, is Star Wars inspired. We don't really care about that one. Brendan Tope is supposedly, I think, north, like New England, Massachusetts, the Hamptons kind of vibes. We have Brightchester. Brightchester is the university word, and that's inspired by England and English universities. Chestnut Ridge is inspired again by the deserty west of the United States, like far west, for western words, so California and Nevada, like Arizona kind of area again. Then we have Ciudad Enamorada. That's a word inspired by southern Latin America. I would think more Latin America because I believe it's more inspired by like Mexican like vibes, but I could see also like Argentina, kind of Chile vibes. Copperdale is the high school year word, and that one is also inspired by, I think, like northern west coast United States, like Oregon, Seattle, kind of like outside areas. Then we have Del Sol Valley, again, US inspired, LA inspired. Evergreen Harbor, again, I do believe there's both inspiration by Europe and the US. Mainly, I think it was like kind of Sweden-ish inspired, and also it's definitely like Midwestern town in the US. Forgotten Hollow is the vampire word, and I guess you could say is also European inspired. It does have that old look of like Victorian houses. At the same time, you also do have Victorian houses in the US, so maybe it's also like kind of US inspired. As for Glimmerbrook, which is the realm of magic word, that is like very just nature, not really inspired by anything specific. I would say maybe US, again, like US forests, that's kind of the vibe, but the architecture is very particular, not really specific. Granite Falls is again US inspired. I believe it's like Sequoia Park, Yosemite, Yellowstone kind of inspiration, like national parks. Henford-Berkeley is British countryside. Innis Green is the new word from Enchanted by Nature expansion pack, and I do believe that's inspired by Ireland maybe, but there's nothing again very super specific about it. Still, I would think that mainly is Ireland inspired. Magnolia Promenade Get to Work is an extension of Willow Creek, and we talked about Willow Creek. It's like New Orleans area, so that's again the vibe. Moonwood Mill is again Pacific West, like Oregon kind of vibes, like town, maybe Canada even, like I would say Vancouver even area, and that's kind of the inspiration for Moonwood Mill, which is the werewolf word. Montgomery is the Japanese word. Newcrest is again another expansion on the Willow Creek and New Orleans kind of vibe. North Haven is the pack for hobbies, the word that came with that, and I do believe that's inspired like partly from the Netherlands, and I do believe Denmark, Sweden, Norway, maybe a little Finland. That's kind of the idea, like Scandinavia. Ravenwood is the life and death word, and that's inspired by Romania. Semi-Shuno is probably the most blended of the like words, because it is inspired by San Francisco but also by Singapore, and there's like a little bit of maybe even South Asia, like India kind of vibes. So it's a little mishmash, and it's probably the most mixed word in all of them, that it's like not specifically from one place. San Sequoia is very California, again Sequoia area. Salvadorada is inspired by the Amazon jungle in central southern America, so we're talking about Guatemala, Mexico, maybe even Brazil a little bit if we go a little down. Strangerville is inspired by the Nevada desert. We have the lab, and it's supposed to be like the Area 51 kind of vibes, so that's exactly what they have there. Sulani is Polynesian inspired, mainly Hawaii and other Polynesia areas like Micronesia, Fiji, and all of those kind of smaller island nations. Tortosa, as I said, is mainly the European side of the Mediterranean, so southern Italy, Greece, southern France. Tomarang is Southeast Asia, Thailand mainly, and we already talked about Willow Creek and Windenburg. Those are, as I said, New Orleans and Germany inspired. But why did I go through the list of every single word in The Sims 4 that we have so far? The main issue that I have with this is that we don't really have a word inspired by Africa. And I know there's some people, especially Black Simmers, that have been talking about this, but I haven't really seen a lot of discourse around this by big creator and their voices, and I would like that to change, because I don't want Black Simmers to always be the one to have to ask for their own representations, and we don't have really any African word or Caribbean inspired word that would be a little more representative of Black culture. And when we talk about Africa, Africa is such a huge, massive continent. Is, I believe, maybe the biggest continent that is inhabited, and there is no words that are inspired by such a huge continent. on one hand you can say maybe there's less Sims players in Africa that will buy this kind of packs. And on that I say, well, how many realistic against the entire African population, how many Southern Italian players are there that you have to do a whole word inspired by Southern Italy? Not that I'm not grateful that we have Italian representation, me being Italian. Do we really need an inspired word by just a region of a small country in Europe? And there's nothing about a huge continent. And if we look back in past games, the only kind of representation for like African culture is the Egyptian word that we got in The Sims 3, that I do believe you go there and you basically get artifacts and explore tombs. I believe that's kind of like that is it. That is also taking into consideration the fact that Egypt is one country in the whole continent of Africa, and that word came in the previous game. So it's been now 10 years and we still have not gotten any kind of African word, and I cannot really think of a reason why. I know that a lot of people speculate that there's some reasons behind the scenes. Mainly I think people were saying that African countries don't have the same laws to protect like minorities and such than other places, and at that I say, well, we have a place inspired by Japan where, you know, gay people and queer people don't really have any representation or protection as well, so why don't we have one for Africa? And at the same time, there's so much North America and Europe representation in these kind of words that it really is a stark opposition, especially if we take out every word that is inspired by North America and Europe, we really are left with like 5 words. So there is already like a stark difference in representation, and the reason is obviously the developers of these games are American and there is a major like also European team now, so it makes sense that America and the US mainly and Europe are mostly represented because they would take inspiration from things that they see in their real life. At the same time, in 10 years, we still haven't gotten one word that's inspired by an African word. And obviously, another issue that could arise is if the word is not really up to par, it could come across as a little disingenuous to create a word about African and with African culture interest that doesn't really reflect what is in real life. At the same time, they did that in the past with like Makomarebi, Japanese word, or Tomarang, which is Southern Asia inspired, and they got people from those countries to give them tips and tricks and info and such to do a best job at that. So you could do that with an African word, no question asks. Just if you want a city word inspired by Nigeria, just ask from a person from Nigeria, hey, what should I do, add and put in? I think, for example, an amazing idea would be to have an African word for the band expansion pack. At this point, I'm saying expansion pack because I don't think we're gonna get bands in a game pack at all, but music and all of that is so intertwined with African culture, it would be very cool to have like African Afrobeats added. You could have new radio station for R&B and Afrobeats and all of that added, which we don't really have right now in the game, and add finally a word to represent an entire continent that right now is missing. And I want to thank my friend Leila for giving me the possibility of using this, but basically what happened is an account came out on Twitter. Obviously this is all speculation, we really don't know who was behind this account, it could be just someone just saying things, but it does fit with the issues that I've seen about the African representation, and they basically leaked a bunch of info about Sims coming packs and all of that, and there was this little tidbits about cultural words that I'm gonna read to you. Maxis want to do more cultural words and have been trying for years to get a word based on Africa in the game, but higher ups at EA prefer culturally ambiguous words as they sell better. Maxis have come up with an idea to please both sides, but they wouldn't tell me what it is. If we do see some kind of Africa inspired word coming up, that would make this a lot more like valid, and all of the other things that were said as well. But my issue is that we see that the developers themselves, the Maxis, really wants to do the African word. They see that the people have been asking for one, and I know people have been asking for one. Lily the Gamer here, I'm going to link her post down below. She would post asking for an African word every day, and she posted like a petition to sign, and I will link that out in the description so you can sign it. So please check the description as well for this petition, and hopefully we will see an African word come into the Sims 4. But the thing is, Maxis really wants to do it, but the higher ups don't want to because they want culturally ambiguous worlds. And they say that, and at the same time, every single word except for Samaishuno, which is arguably decently culturally ambiguous, is not culturally ambiguous. Every single one, I can pinpoint on a map the place that they took inspiration from, and not just from me looking at like with my eyes into the game and seeing like the inspo and realizing, oh, this is inspired by this, but specifically, sometimes they even say that they specifically say, oh, it's inspired by X, it's inspired by Y. Like, for example, Malcolm Arabi, and we'll come up to Malcolm Arabi, was inspired by Japan, and they did say that, Japanese culture. They had a Japanese culture person come in to give them tips on what to add and what to do. They added Japanese names, they added Japanese food, they added Japanese furniture. They did all the Japanese stuff. Because it's inspired by Japan, it's not culturally ambiguous. Willow Creek, it's not culturally ambiguous. There's specific architectural structures that are typical of that area of Louisiana. So it is inspired by that area. So it's not culturally ambiguous. It's that area. Del Sol Valley. Del Sol Valley is not culturally ambiguous. It's clearly Los Angeles. It's fine that it is. I really like Del Sol Valley. That's not the point. The thing is, it's really not culturally ambiguous. So if this is their excuse by the higher ups at EA, it makes zero sense because all the other words that we've gotten so far are not culturally ambiguous. So I have no idea if, again, these things that is said here is real and is something that they actually did say and it is an actual excuse, or if it's just a person, again, talking out of their ass. It could be. It could be. But at the same time, it's been 10 years and we still haven't gotten an African-inspired world, which is insane to me. It's such a huge continent. Billions of people live there. I cannot believe that there's not enough requests for this game, because I know that there is, because I've seen Black Simmers talking about it and I've seen Black Simmer asking for it. And I've been talking about African representation, but also Caribbean representation, which is an island mainly black area of the world that also had like a SDX drop way back. I think like 2016 or 17. We got a drop of Caribbean inspired furniture and clothes, and was like a few items, and that was to me like a way to say, hey, we would love to do this kind of culture in the game, and then they never did. And we never gotten a world, and we never gotten items that weren't just like a few hats. I think there's like a shirt and a table. That's kind of it. And again, it's not like there's no inspiration. It's such a huge continent. Africa is massive. And you could do anything. You could redo Egypt if you really want to do that. If you want to go South Africa, if you want to do a little bit more of a industrial area, if you want to do a city area, there's so many huge giant metropolises. I'm thinking Rwanda for like a massive city in the mountains, because Rwanda is very high up. Like that would be very dope. You could do Kenya if you want to do like safari kind of experiences, or I don't know, anything. There's really a lot of possible inspiration coming from such a huge continent that has zero representation. And at this point, it's the only continent that doesn't have any representation, because we already have so much Europe and North America representation. We have two words that could be attributed to South America. One is more Central America to me. Ciudad Enamorada is more Central America to me. But Salvadorada, you could argue, is southern, like Brazil Amazon area. We have Asian words now. We have Montgomery, we have Tomarang, So there's a couple of Asian places. You could say that Sulani is inspired by Polynesia and the micro island nations of Oceania, so that's also another one that we have on the back, and there's no African representation. And to me that is crazy, that for a game that is centered so much around representation of people and representing what's real in the real world, that they don't have the representation for one of the, if not the biggest continent in the world. Hopefully, and I really am saying it, hopefully, we will see the representation coming soon. I really hope that this person is saying the truth when they say that Maxis might have come up for an idea that pleases both sides. That would mean that at least we get some kind of African-inspired world or something like that. That would be already like very cool. And hopefully we will see a bigger spread of places around the world that words are inspired by, because right now it's very North America centralized, and I really hope that changes. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to my rant. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of upcoming worlds. Do you think that a next world that we will get is going to be African inspired? Do we want African representation? I really do. I think that this is like a necessity at this point. We cannot go on with a 10-year-old game that doesn't have the representation of one of the biggest continents and like thousands of cultures in the world. Again, in the description down below, there's also going to be the petition by Lila the Gamer to, sign up for, asking for a representation of Black culture and an African world, which is what we are lacking of. So if you are at all a Sims player and you're interested in that, please let me know, obviously, in the comments down below. Go sign the petition. It's very nice if you do. Again, thank you so much for watching. I will try to post more videos, hopefully, and stop slacking. Thank you so much, and we'll see each other soon. Bye-bye.